Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Welcome back to the show. We interview the nation's leading real estate entrepreneurs. You guys are in for a treat today. Welcome back if you're joining us for a second, third, or 100th episode, and welcome if you're joining us for the first episode you've ever listened to. You're in for an absolute treat. I've got Daniel Harvey in the studio today. He is an absolute seasoned investor and plays around in the construction space as well, going from multifamily conversions to where now he's focused on flipping. And we're going to talk about all things going on in the market today. He's been investing for over 20 years and is a wealth of knowledge. So just remember, before we get into the episode, at Investor Fuel, we help real estate investors, service providers, and real estate entrepreneurs 2 to 5x their businesses to allow them to build the businesses they've always wanted, to allow them to live the lives they've always dreamed of. That being said, Daniel, welcome to the show today.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get into our topic. But before we do that, could you just share a little bit about yourself and how you got here?
Sure. I'm a Philly guy, born and raised. And when I was in high school, I went to trade school. Got really fortunate there. Got hired by a local transportation company called SEPTA. Was a union electrician as soon as I graduated. So I had that really good job really early on. So I was making money early. And my mom is a real estate agent, and she knows young guys making money. So she was like, why don't you get involved in real estate and invest? And so I started investing. You know, I caught the bug. My first deal ever was a bank-owned property. Bought it for 20 grand. Fixed the property up, rented it out for a while. I didn't like being a landlord at that time. I went ahead and sold that property, and I sold it for like almost like $90,000. And I was like, wow, like I made all this money in this short period of time. So it just really opened up the floodgates of what was possible. Kind of played around with real estate for a while, buying some properties, flipping them. And I was actually doing pretty good, but I was like kind of doing what felt right without any real strategy. And I was like, wow, if I read some books, like I might be dangerous. And that's when I got serious around 2010. And I decided by 2015 that I would leave my job at SEPTA. So I bought a bunch of rentals at that time. 2015 is when I was when I turned 35, or 2000 and into 2014 actually. And so I was able to leave SEPTA 3 days before my 35th birthday. And so I've been a full-time investor ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was one of the things that I had to highlight was, you went from blue collar to multimillionaire and retired, at 34 to do this full time. So is that first deal that you talked about, is that what really lit the fire for real estate in the first place?
It is. I had zero interest. I didn't really know much about it.
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
And just sort of understanding how, or at least getting an idea of how you can create value in such a short period of time. How I basically turned 20,000 into 90,000, right? But obviously by doing the work and fixing the property up, it's like, wow, like this is really great. And so that did really kind of spark the interest. Didn't really at that time, I still didn't have any idea that I would be a full-time investor. I was raised with that, like you get that good job and you hang on to it for dear life. Ride it out to your 60, and so that was the plan, right? And I was working that plan, and but once I saw all the opportunities there, and I became much more educated and I understood different ways to invest, it opened up my mind to other possibilities.
Hmm. Now, what's one of the things that's changed since you first got started? I know you were doing multifamily conversions and now you're primarily focused on flipping, but what's something that's changed about flipping from when you started to now in 2025?
Oh, big. So I started investing heavily like 2010. So 2010 is when we had the glut of a lot of the bank owned properties from 2008. So at that point, you could really you could buy a property and do a cosmetic rehab and create a bunch of value because the banks were selling them so cheaply, right? So it
Mm.
didn't take a bunch of work. Now you don't really have banks selling properties really cheaply. So you have to do a bigger rehab to really create that equity and that value in the properties. So that's the biggest difference. I'm still finding some deals that I would call them cosmetic because they're not the big construction projects that I was doing previously. But it's more than just kitchens and bathrooms. It's probably leveling joist and roof and uh, um, exterior. But that stuff, uh, to me, is pretty simple because I've done much more aggressive rehab projects.
Sure. Yeah, I was gonna say it's not so much full guts,
Yeah.
building something completely brand new out of an existing structure. So, like,
Yeah.
one of the I think a natural follow-up question to that is like, how are you sourcing flip deals right now? Are they on market, off market, through agent relationships? What's your strategy primarily?
Everything you just said. So I'm a big believer in having multiple sources of almost everything, right? Funding, finding deals, contractors. You can't just rely on one source. So I deal, I deal with wholesalers. Those who go out there and market for deals and then resell those contracts. I use a software that can aggregate properties that are listed for sale. You put in certain variables that you're looking for, like flip profit, delta on price per square foot, and it will pull those properties out of like the MLS, and then you can use those to go ahead and make like automated offers off the software, which really has increased how many deals that I can do. right? I'm not typing up offers. I click one button and it pulls in all of my information.
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency. It's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors, and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And then I can send those offers out to agents. In fact, the last few deals, I just put a deal under contract. What's today? Like yesterday, and it was sight unseen, and that's how I generally do it. I'll just make a bunch of offers. Obviously the offers. I think that what people think is, and I hear this a lot. I don't know if you hear this, is if it's listed on the MLS, it's probably not not a good deal. And I'm glad people think like that, because what it does, it gives me the opportunity to make offers and not have all of this competition. And really, you
Right.
just make the offer that makes sense. And if you never know what people are willing willing to accept. But you make the offer, and folks will get back to you. So that was an offer I made about a week ago. I actually forgot about the offer. The agent called me, said, "Hey, you sent this offer out. Is that still good? Blah blah blah." And yeah, and so we got that locked up.
Yeah. So what's one thing you look for in a flip that like just tells you like this one's going to be a home run? What does that usually look like?
Sure. So yeah, and just so the way I look at things is they don't necessarily have to be kind of home runs. They just really need to get things going. So like it could be like a single or like double. But for me, again, I'm preferring that it's not a house that's falling down, right? I don't want to get caught up in doing a full gut rebuild of the property. So I'm looking for more of a grandma special, right? That they might have the green carpet, the pink carpets, the and another good telltale sign is when you see that old towel. Like, I don't know who these towelers were back in the 70s or 60s, but that towel lasts forever.
Yeah.
Um, that's like is either like white. I'm sorry, yeah, it's like white and black, or sometimes it's like yellow, or
Right.
sometimes it's pink. That stuff lasts forever, but it's a good. They're generally in really good shape, and you can do a really good epoxy paint on them, and it'll bring it back to life.
Mm.
So those are deals I like to find, and I know that I'll look for ways to add value. Generally, obviously, I'm looking at kitchens, bathrooms. If I can add a bathroom, if I can finish the basement and add an extra bedroom there legally. So those are the ways that I'm looking to add value. I like that low hanging fruit. Again, back to the grandma specials. Generally, those houses are really segmented, so I can just kind of open them up,
Yeah.
do a beautiful kitchen. So when you walk in, you just catches your eye, like wow. Like, I want them when they walk in, they basically are sold on the house, and the rest of the tour is just let's just see everything else. But they've already sold on
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you make a great point with that tile. I mean, that tile must be like tile and titanium
it.
alloy because that stuff just never breaks. It's
No,
insane.
no, no, that stuff. And if you have to tear it out, I don't know if you ever have. It's like with plaster, and it's this metal mesh that's in there. I mean, they really put that stuff up there back in the day. It's
Right.
not like how we're doing it
No kidding. So
now.
let me ask you this. What's the most expensive lesson you've learned from a bad flip and how'd you bounce back from that?
Ooh, great question. I should just posted something on this. I had a flip I did years ago, and I want to kind of set the stage for this so people understand.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
This was shortly after I left my job and I was a full-time investor. I primarily fund deals with what's called private money, right? So just private individuals lend me deals. That was growing really well. I was getting a lot of deal flow, and I was growing really, really well. I went from doing probably 3, 4 projects at a time to doing 10 projects at a time. But I was still sourcing the deals, funding them. I was the project manager, and I have rentals too. So I was still the property manager. I was wearing all these hats.
Right.
And I thought I was doing a really good job until I got a phone call from the code inspector. Called me up and he was really pissed off. Like, what the heck are you guys doing here? This place is a mess. Everything is wrong. Blah blah blah. So I'm like, hold up. Let me meet you on site. Let me see what's going on here. So I went on site, walked me through the property, and he was right. Like it was trash work. There's really no way to even, try to make it sound good. And the guy was pretty reasonable. He was going to actually let me keep some of this stuff. I was just like, ultimately, it's like, no, I just got to take all this. I'm talking about the plumbing was wrong, the HVAC. We had to take all that stuff out because I wasn't really managing them well. So ultimately, we ended up finishing that project, and I priced it to sell quickly. I put it up, priced it to sell quickly. On that particular deal, I lost $105,000. But I learned a couple lessons, and I'll tell your viewers two of the biggest things that I've learned. One is like what got me to the level that I was at was not going to get me to the next level. Meaning, me doing everything got me to the level where I could leave my job. But if I wanted to get to that next level where I'm doing 10 projects, 12 projects, there's no way. It was impossible that I could do all those things. It was no longer a viable strategy. So I had to become a different person. I had to think differently about how that was going to get done. And that actually caused me to change up my whole structure of my business at the time. Secondly, and this is super, super important, is when you're going to lose quickly. And so what a big mistake I see people do is in a project like that, they'll try to price it maybe $50,000 higher than they thought they were going to try to sell it for, or whatever, some number where they're trying, where they want to try to either limit the loss or get rid of the loss. And all that happens is it just sits on the market and that loss will just persist. So all the interest, all the upkeep, all of that, it's just going to take longer to sell that property. And the other thing is that the longer it takes you to sell that loser, it's going to take you longer to get to the winner. So as long as that's on your plate, generally speaking, it's going to be hard to just kind of then move on to the next deal that can actually make you money. So that I am a big believer in that. If you're going to lose quickly. Don't drag it out and get tortured.
Yeah, 100%. I love both those lessons that you learned from it. Specifically, like what you said there was what got you to this level wasn't going to take you to the next one. That's something that I think you hear the cliche saying of the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over and expecting different results. What was that what was that season like for you when you were really starting to process that? Like, I've got to change things now. Once you're full time, you have that loss. What did that look like for you to reinvent the wheel, even for where you were at in business at that point?
Yeah, I mean, again, it was definitely tough because no one wants to lose money. But what it did was shine a light on a glaring issue that otherwise, if I didn't take that loss, then it would have happened at some point, maybe worse. But it made me realize, okay, I need a different structure moving forward. So after I got through all of the projects that I was doing, I just basically shut down for like a few months and researched different ways that people structure their businesses. Like how are other people doing this? Right? There's no need for me to try to like recreate something, or I'm not coming up with anything novel. How are other people that scaled up? How are they structuring it? And there's a bunch of different ways. I found the way that fit my skill set, and it worked. It worked pretty well. Right. One was I bought on a property manager that ran the day to day of the portfolio, and then I brought on a project manager to oversee all of the rehab sites.
Mm.
And then even with that, both of those came learning lessons. Right, I had to create processes. Right, how do we handle these things so we're not treating every tenant like differently. It's all the same because you could spend a lot of mental energy having to kind of think up, okay, how are we going to like what's the process for like onboarding tenants? Just want to have an onboarding process. There's very little to think about. We just follow the basically check the boxes, done. Same thing on the project management side. We don't want to rethink this thing every single time. How do we go about getting our quotes? How do we structure our contracts? How do we do our site visits? Like all of this stuff. I'm a big, big believer in processes, right? I mean, that's why big companies do it. It makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, it's often said, you don't rise to the what's that quote? You might be able to say it better than me, but it's like you don't rise to the level of your goals and your dreams, you fall to the levels of your systems and processes.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know, because
it's very
ultimately
true.
everything comes through action, right? And so it's a matter of if you can predictably set up a system or a process to actually get where you want to go, then all you got to do is run the play.
Yep, that's it. That's it. That's it. And then what happens is too is as you grow and scale, you generally have to bring on people that are going to be working for you. Uh, so you don't want to. And listen, not everybody's going to stay, and you want some sort of manual module that that those employees can go to and see how systems work, or else you have to remember how you train everybody else. It's and it's a little difficult up front to get those processes done, but once it's done, it's done, and you get all that stuff out of your head. A lot of people really live in their head, and the problem is people can't see what's in your head, and so it's really hard for
You did
people
it this way.
to.
No, you're supposed to do it
Yeah,
that way. Well, why didn't you tell me?
exactly.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, you have to have just people just have to have really good memories or really good note takers, and it's just much better if there's a clearly written out process. And what I do is I tell all of my folks, like, hey, if you see like these are living documents, meaning if you go through the property or you're working or something on the property management side, if there's ways that this can be done better, let me know. I'm not a like, I want that feedback, right? If just because we've been doing it this way doesn't mean that it needs to stay like that. Maybe we need to add something or take something out or simplify, whatever the case is. And so, just if you empower them to kind of let you know, hey, these things need to change. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah. So speaking of systems and processes and people that usually don't have those very down pat, what would you say are some mistakes, or what do you just see new flippers doing that just like drives you crazy as somebody that's been in the game for a while?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of time. Well, often they just over rehab properties, just doing things that are like just yeah. I mean, it's beautiful.
Unnecessary.
It's super unnecessary, and you won't get any extra money for
Right.
it.
You
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
need a mountain in the front walkway. Like,
no, yeah. This is not TV. It needs to be safe. Yeah, and I'm all about it looking nice and definitely having some pop features, but I've seen people just go way overboard, and it doesn't fit the neighborhood that you're selling the property in, and you're just going to never get that money back. Not having a proper scope of work. Um, a lot of newer investors think that you get the property, you call this contractor, you kind of walk them through. Hey, I want to get this done, I want to get that done, I want to get this done. And the problem with that process is um, you have to have a really good memory to tell them everything that has to be done, and they have to be a really good note taker. So if either one of those fail, you're going to have some problem, right? And especially if you're having multiple contractors that are walking through, right? Do you really think that you're going to tell both of these contractors or multiple ones the exact same thing if you don't have a written scope of work? And if you don't know how to create that scope of work, then I would recommend hire a contractor to just create that scope of work, right? Pay them to do the scope of work. Like, stop being cheap. You're already spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the property. What's another couple of bucks? It's weird where people get cheap at, but it ends up hurting them, right? And then they're wondering why all these things were left off of the contract. Oh, we didn't think about this. Oh, we didn't think about that. Oh, we didn't. Yeah, it's because if you had that scope of work, you would have been able to think through all those things, and have a very coherent, um, basically outline for the project. And then it's very helpful if there's any misunderstanding with the contractor. It's like, oh, I didn't say that I was going to blah, blah, blah. Hold up. Right here in the scope of work that we signed on, it's blah, blah, blah. It's right inside of the scope of work that is attached to this contract. Right. So I think that's big also.
yeah, I totally agree with you on that too, of where people people tend to get cheap. It's just so funny how oftentimes when we stoop down to try and pick up pennies, dollars fly right over our heads.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Often, I mean, I also, mentor people, and I do a lot of presentation places, and it's amazing what people skip on and then just get absolutely destroyed later on. It's like you saved possibly at the time a few $1,000. Now it's tens of thousands that it's costing you. Because you didn't want to hire the lawyer, you didn't want to get the engineer, you didn't want. It's like best case, you save a few $1,000. Worst
Right.
case, it could be. I've seen it be tens of thousands of dollars that it costs people. I've seen it cost people the actual property because they just couldn't find a way out of the problem. Rather than dealing with the issue at the very start.
Right. Yeah, it's that opportunity cost that nobody factors in, and oftentimes opportunity cost is way more expensive than the actual cost.
Absolutely. But sometimes what it is people just don't believe it until they go through. They just don't believe. You can tell them. I tell people. I've told many people, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. You might want to think about this, that, and the third. And they just think somebody's trying to sell them something. It's like, okay.
Right.
And some people have to feel that sting, that pain, to know that it's real. Like, oh, now I see what he's talking about. And I get it. I've done that on some things. Sometimes you just gotta learn the hard way.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you had to, last question before we kind of wind down, if you had to go back to the beginning when you first got started, but you were able to take all of the lessons you've gathered over the last 2 decades, what would you do different and what would you do the same?
Ooh, that is a good question. I haven't even thought about that. What would I do differently? What would I do the same? What would I do differently? Um, I would probably had taken some money off of the table at times, meaning I was just a reinvestor, reinvest, right,
Mm,
constantly. In that works, but it at some point it can become a little risky. Sometimes I think you do need to take some money off of the table, and I also would have probably done some more partnerships early.
mm,
I just personally just I had a bad taste in my mouth from other businesses where I had partners. And so I had opportunities to partner that I didn't do. And I think that my business would have grown a lot faster with a lot less pressure just on me, right? Because I mean, I'm the only principal in my business. What I would have done the same is focus on what I did when I first started, which was the Burr strategy. And that was before it was called the Burr strategy. This was 2009, 10, where, I
mm.
bought properties, fixed them up. Yeah, they gained value, went back to the bank, and took out a loan that was greater than the value of the debt that I had on it, even though when I first started I was using cash. That was a great strategy. It still can be a really good strategy on the right properties. It's what allowed me to be able to leave my job when I was 35. So I think that was a really good strategy. I think also I would have continued flipping properties alongside just buying rentals for a long period of time. I only just bought rentals, and I stopped the flipping side of the business because that side of the business was just so it was it was so robust, just super
Mm.
busy, especially with the conversions. We were doing really big projects and doing really big burr cash outs. But I think there's something about just having that business that just creates um, cash flow, right? Income outside of the rentals, that's gives you a nice balance.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I want to ask, one last follow up to there, is you mentioned that what you would have done differently was partnering more in the beginning. What value do you see now that you didn't see back then that would have been helpful to you, do you think?
Sure, yeah. Leaning on other people's strengths, right? So I certainly have strengths in the business, and there's some things that I could do, but I wouldn't call them strengths. And so I believe that had I done that earlier, that the business would have, it did well, but I would have went even further.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what it is. I mean, it just mostly was just I guess thinking I could do everything, just do everything on my own, and a bit of trust issues too.
Yeah. For sure. That totally makes sense. Well, Daniel, thanks for joining us today. If anyone wants to learn more about you or what you're working on, where should they go for that?
Well, my Instagram page just got hacked, so I won't give them that right now. It is Dan the Real Estate Man one. But don't go there now. Somebody's offering Bitcoin. It's not me.
Okay.
Um,
Well, if you want to
um,
invest in Bitcoin, that's fake and it'll take your money. Go to that page,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
let's wait till he gets it back online for actual real estate.
After real estate. On Facebook, it is Dan the Real Estate Man, and also have a website by the same name dot biz.
Awesome. Well, everyone go drop him a follow. and show him some love from the Investor Fuel community. Hope you enjoyed today's show, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again for being here, Daniel.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.